start on the video or something like that start. So, hey, that's probably what happened. Morning, Mike. Morning, Rick. Uh, Welcome to Talking Niagara this morning. Okay, so we've got a number of things we're going to be talking about this morning, and my computer's been up and down like a yo-yo. So I wouldn't mind betting it's going to crash before the end of the show. But I've stopped some of the things that I don't want working, so maybe that'll help us. All right. Okay. So a couple of days ago, the US banned a Swiss World Cup star forward, Briel Embolo, from entering the US.
Yes, yeah, that goes back a ways. It goes back a few days, that article.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna have to refresh my memory on that.
Yeah, basically, so he was involved in a fracas back in 2018, and the ruling on this became final in 2023, and it was about making threats and he was handed a suspended fine, and this was upheld by the Court of Appeal in Switzerland. And he's been fined and paid that fine. Now, he's previously traveled to the US without a problem. And I don't know what has happened in the last couple of days, whether he's been let into the US.
I think it suggests here that he will be coming into the US.
Yeah.
But the court ruling linked to the 2018 altercation in Basel became final 9 months ago. That's kind of a long time, don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean, that's 8 years. They made this guy sit around 8 years, and then right before the World Cup, they said, "Oh well, we now make this pronouncement."
Yeah.
And which will limit your ability to travel because you got into this altercation. He, of course, issues denials about the whole thing. Ruling linked to the altercation in Basel became a final 9 months ago. Like, that's 2018. Like,
yeah.
And God, and the World Cup. This could be a once in a lifetime thing for this soccer player. What's his name? Embola.
Briel
Embola.
Embola. Yeah.
Yes.
So he's an African. He's an African with a Swiss passport.
Yes. So of course he's probably maybe a high-strung athlete. I don't know what happened way back in 2018.
No, and they don't give any of the details. But the whole thing about this is that the headline in this particular newspaper, I've seen the headline was banned. The headline started as banned, and now it's unable to enter the UK after travel authorization review. But
it says we are currently in contact with relevant authorities and expect that Briel will either join the team later today or tomorrow and join the squad. So a spokesman for the team who is boarding their plane to Los Angeles told Reuters Switzerland had previously traveled to the U.S. to play Mexico and the U.S. in June 2025, and Ebola had been allowed into the country. So I don't know. It sounds to me like they're going to let him in, despite all this.
I think so.
But I don't know. I think with all the other stuff happening with him.
Yeah. And the way it was originally planted on the news was that this guy was being, the US were deporting stopping a whole heap of players from coming to the US. No, this guy has got a criminal conviction, so therefore normal United States rules would apply to people with criminal convictions. There's nothing unusual about that. It's just, it was just played up by the press to make it unusual.
I know they don't go into the crime, but I think it looks like it was a punch up or something, some kind of altercation in Basel. He probably had, I don't know if he was drinking or partying or somebody else was, and they got into a tiff. It's sort of suggested there, but big deal with all the other stuff going on right now. I find that, unfortunate for the young guy, but I think he'll probably just get there anyway. And what the hell is he doing playing for Switzerland anyway? He's from Africa. Shouldn't he be playing from the African country that he comes from?
I don't know. That's a different matter entirely. That's not for us to actually.
He must be a Swiss citizen. I imagine he must.
I would imagine so. But you see, my wife has got relatives who are Swiss citizens, so they do have, people. People do come to Switzerland quite a bit. Anyway,
I don't think that Switzerland would have had much of an immigration thing going on, though.
No, not huge, but they do have it. I guess it's fallout from relationship with the rest of Europe.
Well, so this is, I think it's the fans are the biggest problem here. This is a player. He had an altercation back in 2018. For some reason, it's taken 8 years to conclude some sort of, pronouncement on this right at the time of the World Cup, which makes life difficult for him. But it seems that he'll be appearing in the World Cup anyway.
Yeah.
Talk about regretting whatever you did 8 years ago.
Yeah. And he's probably been the height of good behavior since then.
Well, it doesn't mention anything else. If he had gotten in any trouble since then, they would have surely mentioned it. But I don't like the way this article is written. Doesn't tell you what he did. Doesn't tell you much other than like it took 8 years to come to some sort of an idea why he should be restricted from going into the U.S. Anyway, he's a soccer player. That's plain and simple. He's not an earth-shaking individual. He's a soccer player.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get I don't know, kind of I'm bewildered when people think that great athletes are somehow superior beings. I mean, years ago you couldn't say anything about Tiger Woods. People would be all over you.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. He's not treating his wife too good. How dare you? He's the greatest. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but he's a golfer. That's what he is. He's a golfer. He's not a philosopher. He doesn't save the world. He's a golfer. That's what he is. Plain and simple. Yeah. Wayne Gretzky, great hockey player, but he was a hockey player. That's what he was. He's not saving the world.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the candidates in Lincoln for the 2026 municipal elections. One of the things we can tell, it was made clear at the end of March that Lincoln Mayor Sandra Easton is not seeking re-election. So at the moment, you've got three people who are looking to become the new mayor of Lincoln. One is Greg Reimer. The other is Adam Thomas Russell, and the third is Cheryl Keddy Scott. And they've all got their kind of vote for whatever websites. So those are the things to note in Beamsville, Lincoln area. Okay, so Ward 1 Council candidates is Deanne Rintgemer. Ward 2 candidates are currently Tony Brunette. Ward 3 council candidate is Mike Mikulik and Lynn Timmers. And have they got any trustee? No. At the moment, no trustee candidates. So it looks like it's wide open there in Lincoln this year.
Okay.
All right. All right. So let's move on from that one. Oh, we got one. We got one further comment. If you're an athlete and cannot keep your nose clean, you get what we get, a criminal record. Yeah, you get what we get, a criminal record. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, Mike.
Yeah, that's true. But this was 8 years ago. It was 8 years ago, and it doesn't
But
mention
again, it doesn't.
any other transgression ever since. If
Yeah.
it was something that happened 8 years ago in the city of Basel, some sort of altercation, and they're making their pronouncement now 8 years later, I think this is a bit of a problem myself. And anybody because they haven't told us what it was, and that's the insane thing about these kind of articles.
Yeah.
Right? They limit the limit what it was. Now, if he's gone and had beaten a woman or smashed a window because he thought he was king of the hill kind of thing, or done something violent or something like that, yeah, definitely, yeah, put the brakes on this guy. He's got to learn a few things. But if he hasn't had any transgressions in 8 years and had that one, has had to wait 8 years for some sort of pronouncement, yeah, I definitely do believe. I don't think athletes are above anyone. As a matter of fact, I think you would think they would get away with things like movie stars and things like that have money in, and they seem to sort of get away with things. Look at all this things that Hunter Biden got away with because of all the drunk driving charges and everything he got away with because of his influence.
Yeah.
And that's no different from high-end athletes. For some reason, we pander them. But if they're drunk and useless or whatever, then yeah, they have to pay for that. But in this particular case, though, you write an article, you don't tell what the altercation was. You have no idea. The people are reading this, we don't know how severe that transgression was, and yet they just say that these.
Well, you should have seen the headlines. Those headlines all last weekend about how, or during the course of the week, I mean, about how the US was banning hundreds of players, and it turned out to be one.
Yeah, it turned out to be one. Yeah, it's mostly the fans that will be banned, or the ones that will be zeroed in on.
Yeah,
so.
You see, most of these players, I don't know who this guy plays for. I don't have the article up anymore. I don't know what club he plays for. But again, he's going to be back in the fall to play for his club again, or take an offer for another club. You never know, right?
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is the World Cup. He's a soccer player. I'm sure that Maradona and all the other great soccer players around the world have done dumb stuff too, and it's being covered up.
I'm sure it has been in the past.
The hockey players aren't exactly the most sophisticated people sometimes, so I would say, yeah, if they commit any kind of crime, forget it. And also, do not lionize I mean, when you go see good acting on TV and you see an actor and they're doing a great job, they're a good actor. But when they come out and start lipping off about their political beliefs, you can put that aside. I mean, they don't have any more insights than the rest of us.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Same with hockey players or football players or soccer players. They don't have any particular insights. Like I said before, there was a time where Tiger Woods was almost like a demigod.
Yeah.
Everybody hedged on everything that Tiger Woods wanted to say. And I thought to myself, all he is a golfer.
Yeah.
He may be the greatest golfer in the world at this particular time, but that's all he is a golfer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He has no particular insights religiously, politically, economically, anything else.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing about Tiger Woods is that Tiger Woods' troubles impacted him temporarily, then he moved on, right?
Yeah, and I don't even care. I don't care about his troubles. If I was a golfer, I would marvel at his technique, but I don't golf, and Tiger Woods means nearly nothing to me at all. You know,
exactly.
so
I know. Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah,
I think that people get into this like for some, I don't know, I don't know. Anyway, famous people, famous athletes and actors have no better insight into what's going on than the rest of us do.
Well, I remember this game where Manchester United were playing, and I don't remember who they played, but they had Eric Cantona the French star Eric Cantona used to play for them, and somebody in the stand said something, and he literally ran towards the stand and drop kicked them over the top of the wall. You know, he just literally launched himself across the top of the wall. It was spectacularly bad. On TV, you're going to assault a fan because he said something.
Oh well. Anyway, so basically, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
So they're athletes. They're athletes, and in this particular case, I don't know what the altercation is. And as I'll come right back to that article again. Yeah, definitely. Any athlete that is a jerk or breaks the law should have the consequences for it. In this particular case, this guy is facing the consequences on the eve of the World Cup. You figure this would have been resolved several years ago, and then he would have been just, he did whatever kind of punishment he had to do and then get back into the fold. But this must come at a really bad time for him. But it looks like he'll end up being with his teammates eventually once they get a few things sorted out. But anyway, I think it's not really that great of an article overall. Doesn't tell you what it is. Zooms in on one particular athlete that nobody over here knows anyway. And
I have no knowledge. I have no knowledge of him. So he's not a major European star.
Well, the biggest problem, of course, is going to be the fans. How many fans they're going to let in, kind of thing.
Rick has basically come up with some hot news. Bingo callers get diplomatic immunity. Oh my gosh, really?
I don't know if that's true, but it should be. It should be. Now, I told you before that celebrities, athletic celebrities, don't know what they're talking about half the time. Movie celebrities don't know what they're talking about half the time. But that's not the same for bingo callers. Bingo caller celebrities, like myself, really have insight on the world affairs, as we know, as we can clearly see and hear by my comments daily.
In other words, let me translate that, ladies and gentlemen. Dave doesn't know what he's talking about either.
Look, this is what I won last night.
Best table topics. Okay, well done.
Yeah, I won that last night. So that tells you, that's an impromptu speech. So that tells you I'm pretty good at spreading out the ball. And immediately called upon, I can spread the ball for about 2 or 3 minutes.
So best table topics, translate that into best speaker of bullshit on the planet for 24 hours.
Yeah, I won. Yes, well, as I say, like, remember, like, though, like athletes and actors, people of that celebrity, they're specialists in their zone, but bingo callers are intellectual. I mean, I had 4 years of bingo calling. 4 years of bingo calling.
Did you have to go to bingo calling school, Dave?
Yes, yeah. 4 years of bingo calling college. Before it's the sideways, like, look, all the different techniques. The sideways number, you pick up the ball and you go B4, or the one that goes straight ahead, B4, or 4 that happens to a B. All kinds of techniques. It takes years and years to perfect this.
Okay, let's move on. So Ottawa is endorsing a plan to move Marineland's whales and dolphins to both the US and Spain.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Okay. Finally, we have a situation. Finally,
Yeah.
we have a situation where we can get rid of the well. Now, what I don't read in this article is like I'm pretty sure in other articles we've had like this, where we've gone to, we've heard about what they plan to do with the animals. There's been a lot of resistance to where they're going and how they will be treated. But in this particular case, there seems to be nobody quite too caring about where they're going. They seem to be going into good spots, but they're going to be spots like Marineland, basically aquariums of some kind. And this is going because nobody wants these here. But on the other hand, what are the alternatives? Yeah. These are captive animals. They can't exist in the wild. What are they going to do with them? The only other alternative is to euthanize them. And we don't want to euthanize them.
Yeah.
So what do we do with them? And are they going to a good home though? Like it's a real mess. It's a real catch-22. We got this beluga whales. We don't want to have captive whales or captive sea life. We don't want to have captive animals on display, particularly in environments that are
But they're going. Okay, so what we know about them, the belugas and dolphins are set to head to Shed Aquarium in Chicago, Georgia Aquarium in Atlanta, SeaWorld locations in San Antonio, San Diego, and Oceanographic in Valencia. So that's where they're supposed to be going.
Yes. Are those places any better than Marineland? That's my question. Are those places any better than Marineland?
Yeah. Don't know anything about them, right? And you know, how would I know? Never been to any of them.
Well, so the problem here is like before when they had, I think they were negotiating places to put them. That there was a whole lot of angst to where they're going. Now that it hasn't happened because they got to go someplace. It is a position now in the situation you either euthanize them or you get rid of them. So people are not resisting where they're going because at least wherever they're going to go, they're going to be still alive. So that's the options you have. Send them someplace. And like I said before, there was resistance to sending them places that they didn't know of.
Yeah,
I think, and I can't remember those places now, but I think one was in China or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But because they felt that they weren't going to a good place, they weren't going to let them go. But what are you going to do? Leave them in there? Leave them where they are?
Yeah.
They are a captive animal. You can't let them go. What you want to do is stop having them breed, so the whole thing sort of dies off on its own.
Yeah,
these animals don't live as long in captivity. Most animals live longer in captivity, but not these sea world animals like killer whales and belugas and that seem to live a much shorter life in captivity. But something like an elk, they've got elks there at Marineland. They'll live longer because they don't have to worry about predation and food comes to them all the time. So they would probably live much longer. Mm-hmm. Actually, when I was in Chipangali Zoo in Zimbabwe many years ago, there was a leopard there, an old female leopard that was over 12 years old, and she was just a big kitty cat. Now leopards are likely to 4 or 5 years in the wild tops, but this leopard was just what a sweetie,
living it up.
She come right over. And look for scrubble. So you stick your hand in the cage and you scrub her ears and she purr and roll over. She was a house kitty cat.
Yeah, and this is actually one of the most horrific creatures in the wild, right?
Yeah, it'll attack people.
Oh yeah, leopards will kill people. Yeah, absolutely. Right. How long is it going to take them? There's no indication. I didn't see any indication. I'm thinking my understanding it's weeks and not months.
Yeah, they have to happen soon.
Yeah.
And the problem is they're running out of money. They don't have money. They don't have money to keep them going. they're going to need infusions of cash. So that's the reason why they're saying, look, we have to move these or we have to euthanize them. Those are our only concerns.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay. So Rick was saying gas at 175 on Lake Street last night. It was 169, I think.
You notice that the gas was coming down. It's still like at its height was around $1.90 around this area, but it's come down somewhat. But it hasn't come down to $1.25, which was pre-war.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Remember, the war is not that long. It was only a few months old, and still that gas price has not come down. It's not likely to either, because like Trump really is trapped in this situation. Well, Trump, and not just Trump, but the whole administration there is trapped. They really did not. I mean, the Iran closing the Straits of Hormuz has been in everybody's playbook anytime anyone's ever thought of war with Iran. But for some reason, they thought if they cut off the head of the snake, the 50 or 60 or 70 top officials, then Iran would not function. They were very, very wrong about that. Their whole war planning was wrong. And they're stuck with Straits of Hormuz, and they're stuck with Bibi Netanyahu, who sucked Trump into this war, and now he can't get Bibi to do what he wants him to do.
We'll come back to that later on anyway.
Crap out of Lebanon. So we're not going to see prices go down anytime soon.
No, absolutely. We'll come back to that anyway later on in the show. Okay, so Trump has basically paid a French company $1 billion not to build its offshore wind farms.
Not to build,
not to build. Yeah.
Well, one of the
French have been using wind farms for a long time, by the way.
I think a lot of people all over the world have been using wind. We've got lots of wind farms here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the obvious thing, isn't it? That's if you build a wind farm and you build a pretty good windmill, you're going to get power. You don't have to burn anything for it. You just let the wind blow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unsteady, and you have to find ways of storing that power eventually and all that. But when the wind blows, you're getting pretty much free power, without polluting anything. Now, the problem, of course, is one of the things the United States have said, and they want, because they have ample amounts of oil and control over even more ample amounts of oil, that they want the fossil fuel industry to continue.
Yeah.
They don't want replacement of energy from anything but fossil fuels, natural gas or oil, because that gives the country strength. Windmill technology and solar panel technology all went other places. The United States could have had a real grip on that, but they decided not to do that because the oil lobby pushed the American from not developing it. So it developed in other countries. Now they're behind. Because solar panels come from China, and wind generators come from other places like Europe and Korea. So they don't have anything to match that industry. And that's why they want to convert it back to fossil fuels.
Well, the whole point is that they were developing, and the negotiations have gone on under the Biden administration to develop 2 offshore wind farms in the waters in the Atlantic near New York and North Carolina. And that was 795 million would have gone to developing the New York project.
Yeah, the last thing the current administration in the United States wants is successful wind and solar projects, because they are heavily invested in coal and gas and oil.
Mm-hmm.
They want,
but again, at the end of the day, wind has got to be the future. you know.
Well, all manner of renewable energy is going to be the future, no matter
Yeah.
what they do. But in the current administration wants to limit that and accentuate fossil fuels.
Yeah.
Good morning, Nancy.
And correct, yes, they've got paid $1 billion to get out of the contract and not do the work.
God.
You know?
Okay, I'll take it. All right, I'll take it. So you don't want me to do work. You're going to pay me $1 billion not to do the work. Could I get a job like that?
I mean, every worker wants that job, don't they?
Yeah.
You know, give me.
Yeah. I'm here to apply for that job where I stay at home and do nothing and you give me money.
Yeah. Maybe not $1 billion, but every worker wants that job, right?
I'm telling you, I'm your most reliable employee.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here doing nothing, you know?
I'm your most, I'm really good for this job. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I will be your most consistent employee you ever heard. Just give me the money. I'll sit at home and do nothing. I'm good at that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of, you know, this is, yeah, we can all do that, right?
Yeah.
Especially if it's $1 billion worth of do nothing.
Yeah.
But again,
give me more time to hone my skills as a bingo caller.
But again, at the end of the day, whilst it might not occur under the Trump administration, it's going to be back under the next administration.
Yeah, it's you can't hold back progress. The problem here, of course, is the United States, because this is where the lobbies really interfere with the advancement of America. The United States developed the solar panels. They developed the wind stuff. They're the ones that brokered all that technology. What happens is the big companies, like the oil companies, now all lobby to make this. Like, they had a good car industry started back 26 years ago. If they went along with that, if they kept that going, they would have been the most advanced cars now in the world, and there would be lots of them. But the oil industry lobbied against it, pulled the trigger on all the politicians they own, and next thing you know, these technologies go overseas and get developed there, and then they come back to North America, and now we have to buy solar panels from them, and we have to buy wind turbines from someone else, and yet it makes the most sense to do that.
Well, and exactly, you know, you might well, you know, you might well talk about wind and the fact that wind needs to be you know, essentially, you might argue about the question of base load, etc., but wind, when you've got the offshore wind where you're guaranteed in positions to have wind, those suckers may look ugly, but they do a job.
I think the biggest wind turbine should be set up in Parliament Hill, right in state.
or
Queen's Park.
Yeah.
I think Doug Ford should carry one around with him. Generate a lot of power that way.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, you know, slandering our politicians about being, you know, about the hot air that they produce is one thing, but you know, it's inevitable in my view, right?
Well, Doug Ford wouldn't need a hot air balloon. All he just has to do is talk into the balloon, and it will raise itself up.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what you need for every politician. There isn't a politician in history that hasn't been a hot air balloon creator.
Well, it's part of the job.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Well, that's why I can't be a politician, because I'm an absolute truth teller.
You're going to have to see whether there's a lie in that statement somewhere. Right. Okay, so Canada is formally requesting a 16-year renewal of the CUSMA agreement.
Yeah, this was kind of odd to me that the Canadists went down there and said, "Okay, we're formally asking that this be renewed." Isn't that what all this has all been about, up until now? And then the Canada just goes and says, "Okay, we want it renewed now." What was that all about? What was the point of that? Tell me.
But again, so Tuesday's notice was given by Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc, and he requested the renewal of the deal for another 16 years. So I bet what he did was, "Hey, Mr. Donny boy, you've been a fantastic leader. Now give us CUSMA to continue for the next 16 years." It was your brilliant suggestion.
I don't understand why he had formally requested, because this has been going on forever. But maybe there is some reason for the formal request that kind of draws the line and says, "Okay, we're ready to go. We're ready for the 16 years to start again."
Yep.
But even if there is no negotiation, the deal continues on for another so many years, and any country could withdraw from the deal in a certain time frame. So basically, time is on our hands, because we could still outlast the Trump administration, and that might be in the end, that might be our only way to go. The problem with the unsurety is that if we don't get a deal, then we're going, like, there isn't going to be investments in Canada. Investors like as secure a foothold as they possibly can. They want to be sure of the laws. They want to be sure of, they have to get all that done. And everything you read about investment is they want assurances of political, trade, economic. So Canada's okay as a stable country, so that's okay. Canada's okay as a democratic country, so that's okay. But what is uncertain is how our trade deals are arranged with our biggest trading partner. That is the thing that inhibits investment. That's why we want to get this done. But if we don't get it done, we can wait. We can try to wait till the next administration, one that's a little bit more reasonable, one that doesn't put a tariff on us just because we put an advertisement in the World Series.
Well, LeBlanc was in, Dominic LeBlanc, the Canada-U.S. Trade Minister, was in Washington to meet U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer. And basically, Greer, has really been talking about that they got parallel discussions with U.S. Addressing sectoral tariffs, and that will be essential, and that any agreement on CUSMA is going to actually indicate that we have to accept some form of U.S. levy.
The problem is the U.S. administration has put a lot of effort into getting these tariffs, reducing taxes for the rich, especially, but also for the middle class. Middle class tax breaks only go to 2028. I don't think many people really realize that. The rich people's tax breaks go on a lot longer. But the problem here is you have to have revenue. And one of the places, like, there's a supposedly a two-pronged method why these tariffs come in place. Number one, tariffs are there to protect U.S. industries and to attract them back. So you say you want to sell salt shakers in the United States, then if you make them in Korea, we're going to put a tariff on the salt shaker. But if you bring that salt shaker factory here in the United States, then we won't charge you a tariff. And it's not a charge of a tariff, actually. It's the Americans. And it says they're charged a tariff. You're not really charged it. The American people are paying the tariff. So it says if you want to sell a salt shaker here in the United States, the average American person is going to pay much more than it's worth, because that's the tariff we're going to put on it. So we're going to go. So we're going to encourage you to bring your salt shaker factory here. And you won't have to pay any tariffs on it. Or our American people won't have to pay the tariff on it, which means you probably sell more salt shakers.
Yeah.
The other thing, of course, is the lost revenue. There's a two-pronged thing. I was getting to the second prong. The other thing is the lost revenue because of the big, beautiful bill. The big, beautiful bill has caused a loss of tax revenue. Loss of tax revenue is forcing the United States down the long road of debt. They do not have enough money. When you give the tax breaks that they have given, they need to make it up somewhere, and they hope to make it up with tariffs.
Yeah. But also to note on this, in this regard,
on the American people.
Yeah. To note on this regard, Mexico has also announced its call for renewal of these multilateral trade pacts. So they've made a formal announcement as well. And their intentions and position is that the treaty should be extended. And this is Mexico's Economy Minister, Marcelo Ebrard, according to Reuters News.
Do remember, too, that both the Congress and the Senate have made it very clear that they want CUSMA to continue. They want the free trade. They had two bills, they're meaningless bills, basically. They have no teeth, but they are an indication of where the Congress and the Senate sit on this issue. They had a vote on whether to continue the trade deal with Canada, and they universally went for it. So the Senate and the Congress both voted for it. Not universally, but they voted for it. Same thing with the one with Mexico.
Yeah.
So we see that politically, outside of the White House, they want this to continue. They see this as a great advantage to the United States more than anything else. It's you got to get past the drama, though, the drama that the White House likes so much. The orange fellow loves drama. So that sort of bombastic drama that's going on, we got to get past that. I think Carney's pretty good at it, although I think he is getting irritated with the 51st state stuff and all that. Here we go again.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. And talking in that regard, so Donald, okay, so we're, basically, Trump is going to hit more than 60 countries, including Canada, with tariffs over forced labor, or allegations of forced labor.
Okay, we know now when the Emergency Measures Act by the president was deemed illegal by the court, the Supreme Court. Even a stacked Supreme Court that was stacked by him, and they still voted against his emergency kind of presidential decrees on tariffs. So they have to be removed, and they have to be paid back. So the U.S. is desperate for other means by which to charge tariffs, other reasons that are legal that you can do that. And one of the things they can do is put a surcharge. Put another tariff. They're going to hurt the American people, of course, but they put another tariff on goods from all over the world that have not clearly enforced the enforced labor restrictions they should have had. In this particular case, they are right. Back when CUSMA was negotiated, there was this part of the agreement that said that you have to watch out for products that contain enforced labor. anyone who gets cobalt in Europe or the United States are getting it from somebody who's using forced labor in East Congo.
Yeah.
So
basically,
you're supposed to restrict that.
And basically, to set the record straight, this is another one of these very explosive kind of headlines. What U.S. Trade Representative, again, Jamieson Greer, has been talking about is that nearly 90% of Canada's exports to the U.S. would be exempt from tariffs. And essentially, what you've got here is that there are goods, like you were saying, which embody other embodied materials that come from land that we can't guarantee don't have child labor in place.
Or it's not just in child labor; it's in forced labor.
Forced labor, yeah. And that's it's the area of those small minor products, because we can't guarantee the supply chain, and we can't guarantee there isn't forced labor in the supply chain, which are the problem areas. And it's only a small percentage of all products.
Yes, but they are right about this one. This is one place they are right. When it's hard to admit that, but they are right about this. Canada has not been doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's only interrupted about 50 shipments of goods that have the legacy of enforced labor on them.
Yeah.
Now the problem here is multifold. Some of that enforced labor is child labor, and those children need those jobs, and the family needs those jobs. The best you can do with child labor in a lot of places like Pakistan and Bangladesh and many other places in the world is to make sure the child is treated well and gets some education, but the family quite often needs the job. So if you shut them down, then you are making them starve, because the factory will just pick up and go somewhere else. Yeah. So you got to be very, very careful in these rules. But that aside from the fact that Canada has not done its due diligence here, it's very clear by the articles I read, this one and another one. Canada has not done its due diligence tracing back at forced labor. Now, the other thing is everybody's a hypocrite on this. Europe and the United States, particularly Europe, gets a lot of its cobalt from East Africa, and they get it from Rwanda, who has no cobalt reserves, and Rwanda gets it from East Africa, from M23 gangs and other people who enforce people to mine these things, particularly children, cobalt, and everybody turns a blind eye to it and buys it because they need the cobalt.
Yeah.
So if you were to really push that, the United States and Europe and Canada would not be able to buy any cobalt because most of it comes from forced labor.
Yeah.
You need cobalt a lot, so you turn the other way. So there's a lot of hypocrisy.
And you're right about the child labor thing, because in some parts of the world, the children are actually the biggest earners for the family. And once they become adults, essentially there's no jobs for them.
Well, the problem that I remember this one time in a union meeting, the annual union meeting, and I was looking at some of our investments and wondering how much of them involved child labor, particularly investments overseas. So I was a little bit mad about that. We're a labor union, and do we support some of our stocks involve companies that may employ?
The answer to that is no. So the easy answer to that is always no, right?
No, well, no, I'm getting to it.
Yeah.
But a fella, one of the guys in my union said, think about this. He says, the problem is everyone was doing that, and what it was doing, it was hurting families and impoverishing them, because these companies these families need their children to go out and work. Otherwise, the family doesn't survive. What you want to do is use your influence as a stock owner or something like that to make sure that children are fed well, that they are working in safe environments, and that the company does do something about getting them educated, or at least have educated. You want to limit the amount of work they do rather than eliminate the work, because if they eliminate the work, then the family starves.
Yeah.
So that's the problem with being too sanctimonious about something like this.
That's what
you have
I mean.
to look at the reality of the situation.
Yeah, the easy answer is no. The reality is quite something different.
Exactly.
Yeah, you know, I don't know that we, you know, it's always a hard discussion, and the problem here is in relation to the statement you just made. It could easily be quoted out of context to say that Dave Wheeler supports child labor.
Precisely,
You know?
and that's what, and that's a good tell for any kind of news article too. When you dig into some of this stuff, if you, it's wording and stuff taken out of context.
And basically,
this is something that we accuse the Orange Man and his state media, the Fox and so on like that, of this all the time. But it's true that this is being done to him many, many times. And so as a different person, no matter what your political philosophies are, do not trust your news source.
And again, Carney has said in relation to this, it's not a surprise, you know, with this new levy about the forced labor levy. So in other words, there's a recognition that we can't guarantee our supply chain to not have forced labor in it.
What bothers me the most about this, as the article has pointed out, that there has been warnings to Canada from the very beginning that they're not doing, and from Canada, people in Canada saying, look, the United States could use this against us because we're not doing our due diligence with enforced labor and looking at the contents of the stuff coming into the country. We are acting as a backdoor for goods that involve enforced labor. Way back in 2022, it says in the article, somebody pointed that out. We have better get our act together, but we didn't, did we?
No.
And now we just stuck our foot right into it, because now this is a reason they can use, a documented reason. It's true that we haven't done our due diligence on this. I don't know if the United States has done their due diligence. That wouldn't matter to them, but it's an excuse to come after us, and we walked right into it, and that's what bothers me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and we should have been doing our due diligence with it.
Yeah, and it's up to Carney and Co. to actually turn this around realistically.
Well, what bummed me out the most is, this is just another excuse by the Trump administration, which it is, to charge a tariff, get a tariff. But then when I looked into it and saw that we really wasn't doing what we're supposed to be doing, and really being very weak on this.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking to myself, what's wrong with us? We're supposed to be, one of the most moral things you could do is keep an eye on this kind of thing. And we decided we're not going to.
Yeah.
But we're kind of,
okay. Okay. Let's put this into context. Dave is playing the trumpet.
Play trumpet? You mean, I'm not going to say it.
Yeah. All right.
I'm not going to say it. Nope. Can't get me to say it.
All right.
Who? Try what?
Yeah. Okay. Israel's invasion of southern Lebanon devastates centuries of history. I thought we could probably end there, because we kind of need, you always like to look at that part of the world when we end.
Yeah, it's not like I don't like to look at Ukraine, which is another war that one I dumped right on Biden's lap. Biden and the West, generally speaking, Boris Badenoff from Britain and France and all the others who let the Ukraine war happen. Biden gleefully let it happen because there's going to be lots more ammunition he could sell over there. Idiot. And and also I'll put a big dump on Biden for the war in Gaza. He could have stopped that at any time at all. But Netanyahu slapped him around. Netanyahu is slapping around Trump too, no matter what you hear from Axio or whatever. Netanyahu still controls the cards. He's got the cards. Iran and the United States got much less.
Mm-hmm.
But here it is. Like the Israelis have been able to convince their whole population that this is the way to go: to bomb the crap out of Lebanon, to bomb the crap out of Gaza, and to kill all kinds of people and knock down their. So they're trying to wipe out history. What Israel did when they took over Palestine, that's what they did. They started to wipe out history. They started to eliminate any sign of Palestinians that lived there for thousands of years and renamed the spots. They're doing the same in southern Lebanon now. They're destroying the history of southern Lebanon. They're destroying village after village after village, chasing the people out, making sure that they're not going to be able to come back or less likely to be able to come back. And bomb the crap out of Beirut, and they're over the Litani River. Yeah, this has been a problem for the men who shall not be named, because he got himself hooked up in there, and Netanyahu was playing him like a fiddle, and Netanyahu got exactly what he wants. But the problem is they're killing people. They're killing people by mass. They're attacking southern Beirut now. They're into that city, and I don't know. They're doing horrible things to people. Over 1 million people have had to be displaced. Imagine 1 million people around here being displaced. Imagine the Niagara region having to be displaced. Right, the 500,000 people in the Niagara region have to pack up their stuff and go somewhere else. This is the homes they've lived in for generations, and they've got to go. Right. That's what they're doing. It's evil what they're doing. It's immoral, unethical, and
in addition to that, of course, they're bulldozing right now thousands of years of history, with some of the most treasured archaeological and cultural sites in the world being right in the path of the Israeli army right now.
Well, that's their method, is to wipe out the legacy of what happened before. They did it in Israel. They just destroyed anything that was related as much as they could. Anyway, they couldn't do much, too much in Jerusalem, because that's too old and ancient, and there are Christian, Muslim, and Jewish sectors there, and Armenian sectors, and so on, that make it a little tougher to do that. But anywhere else in the country, if they can knock down a church, they will. If they can knock down a mosque, they will. If they change the name of a place, they do. They just eliminate the history of the place, eliminate what they do into a place, that they go in and wipe out anything that reminds anyone of the history of the place up to that time. So no one has a place of reference anymore to say that this used to be or that used to be. And that's how Netanyahu works, and the Israeli right work. And as long as the United States keeps feeding them money so they can have free medical care and free education and free bombs, they're going to keep doing it.
Mm-hmm. And and well, in some parts they've captured the Litani River already, but they've
gone over the Litani River.
Yeah. Because this Beaufort Castle we were talking about is on the other side of the Litani River. But basically all along the border with Lebanon, Israeli forces have been advancing.
Yeah, they've been advancing, and they bring their bulldozers with them to knock down everything they see.
Yeah.
There were interviews with people there who'd been had lived in the United States most of their life, and then come back to Lebanon to set up a little bit of a home back in Lebanon, an old country. Like people go back to Italy and people go back to Greece and things like that after they've made some money and they have maybe a second house there. Well, they're just being bulldozed.
Yeah.
So, people, and this is not exactly, now the southern part of Lebanon is where most of the Shias live, and probably the place by which most of the Shia militia, Hezbollah, is. But the problem is most of the people there are innocent people. They don't belong to Hezbollah. And like if you're knocking down a Christian village and a Christian church, and you're hammering Jesus Christ with a hammer after you knock down the statue of him and hammer him with a hammer, it's very clear what you want to do. You want to eliminate and extinguish the memory of that place, and that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, and a lot of it, even if you live in somewhere like Europe or somewhere like the Middle East, you might see these monuments on the hillside, and you drive past them on a daily basis, and you never go to them. You just know they're there, and they add historical value to where you live. Bulldozing them is not helpful at all.
Yeah, it's like them coming in and bulldozing Fort George.
Yeah.
The Fort area, right?
Exactly.
And then knocking down the Brock's Monument.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Totally unhelpful. And you may never ever go into Fort George, for example. But the fact you live in Niagara Lake, and you kind of go, "Oh, I'm going to go there one day," every time you go past it, and never do.
Well, it doesn't matter, but like
it doesn't matter, yeah.
So let's say the Americans invaded up here and they knocked down the fort, they knocked down both the forts, they knocked down the Brock, right, Queenston Heights, and then they call it, American Heights, right?
Yeah.
And so nobody remembers what it really was, and the monument's gone, and there's no mention of the monument anymore. And then all of a sudden, Brock is eliminated from any names anywhere. So you got Brock Street is changed to America Street or something, or Washington Street or something like that. That's the kind of thing that they're doing. The Israelis have done, and they've done it right from the very beginning, is to knock down anything that's a reminder of who used to live here after they pushed them out of their land, and then rename the villages or the towns, and that would be that.
Yeah. All right, and we're done for today anyway.
Yes, and without further ado, I bid you adieu and pray for peace, and don't forget Gaza.
Right.